Hey, hey, what's good? What's good? What's good? What's good? What's good, everybody? Hope everybody had a good. Um, I don't. I want to start. I want to jump back in, but I gotta give a couple of shout outs. I gotta give a couple of shout outs. First and foremost, I gotta give a shout out to Riri. You know, Riri works with me very well. She's been with me um, since I started this and before. And I just would like to say, thank you, Riri. I really appreciate you and love you. You know, that's without a doubt. Some of my day ones is China Black. There's so many out, and through the broadcast, I will definitely mention your names. Mina Princess, also JD, all of them. You know, they definitely are in my corner, and they're part of my team. They're part of my team. One thing I want to say before I get started is this is not how can I say a bad response to Dwann B. It's not. It's I actually appreciated that he included me as one of the DJs, and I appreciate that so much. And before I go on, I would like to address that by saying that he definitely knows the culture and history of music. And, that without a doubt, he definitely knows, especially, the earlier part of music that a lot of people really don't research to find out. So Dwan B definitely does that. He does his homework. He does it, and he's very vigilant about explaining, the origins of the different genres of music. And I totally appreciate that. One of the things that I can say about these things that it's always different from a musician's point of view than just a regular uh, connoisseur of music. So there's difference in between the actual musician, just like Riri. People don't know that Riri plays a mean bass. She's a musician, and she has a musician background. A lot of people just, love music like we all do. We love music, but there's a little bit of a more of a difference when you're actually a musician. So I would love to say that, and I want to shout that out, uh, being, that this is the response for Juan B. Also, during this broadcast, I hope that we can understand the timeline because, see, a lot of times, when we look at what everyone knows as the origins of hip hop, totally don't place the timeline as to which it became this hip hop music. A lot of things that I want to say. Oh, and I have a big surprise. My book will be released July 7th. July 7th of this year, 2026. My book will be released. Okay. And we will be taking pre orders, I believe, in June. So the pre order of the book will be in June. So when the day that I release the pre-orders, please, pre-order your books because the day that it comes out, it might be sold out is the amount of copies that we have. After we retrieve those copies, then we will place an order for the next batch of orders. But July 7th, 2026 will be the release of my book. So a lot of things in this broadcast, I'm gonna hold back. I'm gonna hold back because I want you to enjoy the book. I really do. I want you to enjoy the book. I've been going over it lately, and I'm like, oh, I forgot this, and I just, I guess I'm gonna have to make a part two because there was so much involved with the creation of hip hop. See, a lot of people, to me, have it mixed up. They have what the aftermath of hip hop, meaning that after it was created, then this happened. After it was created, then that's when the records came. That's when it became somewhat known. It got out of the actual circle that it was in. And so a lot of times people say, okay, well, this happened this way and this happened this way, but it doesn't fit in the timeline of when it was created. So that's one thing that I wanted to clarify and get straightened out, because a lot of times, everyone has this story about, what happened in the beginning and who was there in the beginning. And if you really do the research and you find out a lot of these things could not have even take place because some of the things did not happen yet. Okay. So a lot of times, it did not happen. Okay. So when you check and do the research to find out that exact timeline, then you'll actually know. And because you guys know I'm DJ Phase, I'm gonna bring it out just like that champagne up there. You know, I'm gonna bring the evidence, and like the younger people say, I'm gonna bring the paperwork and show you. So getting right into it, let's get it. Let's talk about why I have a response. One of the responses come because of this. What he said was that hip hop comes from generations before us, the creators, and that there's no one person that could create hip hop. Uh, I will never say one person. I will never say it was just me. But what I can say, there were at least seven people, seven kids that did create this big thing called hip hop. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. What I can say is that just like everything else, of course there was a before, because millions of years ago, we don't know what was happening. We really don't. But, there was a before. So every genre of music was put together with something that they part of someone else's creation. And so that's just like with jazz. Yes, it might have started here and it might have did this, but that's what the start was. So the person that brought it to that and used those type of instruments or used whatever, that was the creation of it. Now it could, jazz has a lot of different genres of music in it. If you really want to know, jazz has R&B in it. Jazz has blues in it. Jazz has country in it. Jazz has rock in it. Now jazz has hip hop in it. So it is a collective of different things. It is. That's without a doubt. But when you say hip hop wasn't created, and I'm gonna just put the date out. I'm gonna put the date out, and the date it was created, and the date. Well, I can't put the date that it was created, but I can put the date that made it hip hop. Like I can tell you exactly that day that it was brought out to the public to make it hip hop. I can tell you who named it hip hop, and it wasn't cowboy. It wasn't later on in this. It was actually in '71 when this thing called hip hop was introduced to other places other than Bronxdale, to be exact. So once it was taken out of Bronxdale, and when I'm not saying taken, but once it was put out of Bronxdale, then a lot of things happened. Of course, there's a lot of things happen. But another thing that I wanted to maybe clarify is that, people call it elements, but in the creation of hip hop, they're what you call three elements, and that's it. So all of those that say, oh, what the graffiti, if you start by talking about the creation of hip hop and you say graffiti, you're already out of the game. You're already out of the game. You weren't there. You don't know. You might have read wrong, but you're totally out of the game. As soon as you mention the word graffiti, you're not talking about the creation of hip hop. So, what are the three elements? Well, the three elements start out with the drum beat, all right, the drum beat, the talking on the mic to the drum beat, and the dance that goes with the two. So those are the three elements that created hip hop. So we talk about the beat. We talk about the beat. Yeah, yeah. There were a lot of drummers that actually had a funky beat, and yeah, that dates back a long time. I guess from when the drum set was originated. When you first came, yeah, there was definitely a beat. Totally. The talking over the mic. Yes. But one thing that I see that people relate this to is the dozens. The dozens. And I think a lot of people have the misunderstanding of what the dozens actually is. So if you trace back the dozens, yes, it's jive talking, but the catch is that it's rhyming, it's in rhyme. And so that's not the creation of what we did. Picnic Markham was basically doing the dozens. And so that's not what we were doing. We were snapping. And so there's a difference. There's a difference between snapping and the dozens. The dozens have mother jokes, but usually in rhyme. It's in rhyme. So they're rhyming the dozens. They're rhyming, And so if you go back and you do the research and you listen to some of the things that they were talking about, it's definitely was the rhymes. So when we as kids did that, it was hard to find some words right off the bat talking about someone's high waters, or talking about somebody's peasy hair, or talking about, so it wasn't on the fly to just be able to rhyme like that. The dozens usually used rhymes over and over. They said some rhymes, and that would be, the basis of the competition at the time, because it was still a competition. And even the radio DJs, they were saying things that rhymed. It was more or less about rhyming over this music. And of course, it had a melody. It had a melody. So if we were rhyming to the music, then I guess at that time it would be considered a rap, but it wasn't what the creation was. And that's just it. I mean, I can't say something that it wasn't. It just wasn't. It wasn't really about the rhyme. It was about the insult. So it was more about being a, and Pig Meat Markham, he had a lot of just straight insults, and Wildman Steve, and Mom's Mabley, and early Richard Pryor, Red Fox. These people had straight up insults that were put over music at times. And someone did an interview of me, and I brought a couple of records through, and I said, and they were like, "Wow, y'all were really X-rated," and it was because we were kids, and we upstairs in the house. We couldn't say those curses. We couldn't say the foul stuff that it was talking about, the roaches coming out the vagina and all kinds of stuff. We couldn't say that, in front of our parents or anybody, even older people. We couldn't say that. So, so that's why. And this is another point that I have to make. See, people don't understand that hip hop was not created indoors. It was not. There's nothing anybody can say about an indoor party that created hip hop, because that was our way to get away from the older people, the parents, the older uncles, the aunts, the friends, that were older. This was our way to be able, just like you guys know, in school, you could be in kindergarten or Head Start, and you could say some words and get away with it in Head Start and kindergarten that you wasn't gonna say at your house. And you wasn't gonna say nowhere around no older people. And this. This is something that All you people that said no, that's not true, you're lying. You're lying, because that's what we would do. And even, like with our parents, if you got a whipping or a beating or whatever, you go in the room and these motherfucking chicken, fucking chicken, you be crying and crying. That's truth. That's truth, because you couldn't say that in front of your parents. You see what I'm saying? And so that's what we were basically doing. We had a way to go outside away from our parents and away from older people in period in general, and we're able to cut loose. We were able to say some things that we wanted to. We could make gestures that we couldn't make if your parents saw you making the gesture like that. They would be like, they'd tear you up, you know. And so that was one of the things that made it outside, you know. The indoor stuff was stuff that when it rained outside, then everybody from Bronx, they'll know that's when the snapping sessions begin in the staircase and in the hallways. You know, we would be in the hallways and the staircases, and people from different buildings would come over to the buildings and everything. So my two buildings were very, very hot. They were very, very known, and people came. So, you know, at a young age, I was able to hear a lot of snaps and stuff. So basically, you know, that beat, and you'll learn in the book where the beat actually came from, and you know how we used it. Okay, so and I'm just touching a little bit of base of it. So the next thing would be the dance. Now, of course, dancing goes back, I don't know, I guess as far as people go back, you know, dancing goes back. And I understand that. And I understand people saying that, oh, well, dance was here before. And you know, they were dancing like this in Africa. And in the 40s, they were dancing like this. But the key to that I can tell every single one is listen to the music in which they were dancing to. That's the key. Okay. If you listen to the African drum, how they were dancing, that's totally different from the funky beats that we were dancing to. The older 40s music was a different timing and a different style of what we were doing. The 40s and early, you know, their music was, yes, up tempo, but there was no uh on the one, there was no complete mission inside of that. And so, what I was going to explain to people about being a musician, well, no, I saved that for a little bit later on in this broadcast. So it was the dancing was totally different from, you know, the brothers and stuff that you see dancing and stuff, and the tricks and stuff. It was totally different because the music was different. So before 70, there really was no combination of what our breaks and our beats were with the actual dance. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, before 70 that they didn't have funkier music. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is the combination of the breaks that we were listening to and the sound of the ones earlier before that were a little total. Matter of fact, I could say totally different. So let's go into those records, all right? Because it was the 70 and 71. There's a big difference, okay? And you have to read the book to know what that difference is. But from 70 to 71, there's a big difference in hip hop. So let's go to some of the things, some of the music. Now, remember, beat masters. Uh, I'm still old school, and I'm still going to cover up some of the names because you're not going to find my beats and everything. As I have a couple of things that were actually not ever released. Um, okay, so let's start with Funky Drummer. Okay, so Funky Drummer by James Brown was released as a single in March 1970, recorded on November 20th, 1969. Okay, so people don't understand, some people, I'm not going to say all people, some people don't understand the difference between released and recorded. Sometimes they record things years before it's released. So know that. Just know that. Remember that concept first before we start talking all of these dates and all of that stuff. Remember the release date is different from the recording date. Okay. So recorded on November 20th, 1969 at King Studios in Cincinnati. Now, if anybody knows me, if anybody knows me, that Cincinnati, Hamilton, Cleveland, Columbus, all of those places are my family. Like the Ohio players, Leroy Bonner, which Dwann B always talks about, the Ohio players, Sugarfoot, the main person of the person who put the Ohio players together was my cousin. Okay, he was my cousin. He was my blood cousin. I sat in with them. I listened. All of that was my blood cousin. So it goes on to say that at King Studios in Cincinnati, Ohio, grandmother, everybody in Cincinnati, Ohio. Okay, my family. Okay, it featured a drummer, Clyde Stubblefield, and was later famously included on the 1986 compilation album in Jungle Groove. Okay, we're not even talking about the 80s or nothing, but we're talking about that. So with Clyde, now this is the catch. This is the catch. Even by James, and all of my basically elders, and my uncle especially, and my mother, there was actually at times two drummers for James Brown Band. Some people say that one would play this while the other one would rest, but there was a lot of times that they played together. And there were certain things that one wouldn't do on the bass drum and the snare, so they combined it so that it could sound like one. Now, everybody in my family, every single person in my family could tell you that as a little kid, they tricked me. They tricked me. And so I was hearing these triplets and quadruples on the bass drum and the rolls on the snare drum and the quadruples on the triplets and all kinds of stuff on the hi-hat at the same time. And because I was practicing and learning these records, they would tell me, "Oh, you can't do that." And what is I think for all kids, I think this is for all kids. If someone tells you you can't do it, you're gonna do it. Like, I wish they had told me all the stuff that I couldn't do so that I could do it. So a lot of those triplets and quadruples and whatever's after quadruples, I was doing on my foot, on my bass drum. I can still do it. So if anybody wants to challenge me to that, I can still do it. A lot of the rolls that were on the snare drum, I could still do it. The quadruples and stuff on the hi-hat, I could still do it. So when I finally met James Brown, because a lot of you guys talk about all of this and everything, but never met James Brown. When I met James Brown, he told me that the secret to the sound was actually not the bass drum. It was between the snare and the hi-hat. So it's the unpronounced drive and the unpronounced notes that would make that funky beat. And so later on in the years and everything, like I was instructed by Leroy Harris. I was instructed by Richie Pratt. And Richie Pratt was the New York Jazz Quartet. And in those things, when I was being taught that, they would say to me, and these are professional years of drummers, that they didn't understand how I could be so little and powerful enough to do these things with the combination between the hi-hat, the snare, and the bass drum. And they were always impressed, and they would take me places and say, look, you want to see something here? You want to see something odd? Like, watch this little kid. And so that's how I got a lot of places and everything. So now let's talk about some of these records, okay, that did it. So, all right, we just spoke about Funky Drummer, right? But now let's go see, because like I said, the release date is different than the recording date. So a lot of things, especially if it's coming out of Cincinnati, Ohio, I had a chance to get before it got released. And, that's why I'm always able, to show you guys stuff. you know, I'm always able to show you guys these things. I'm always able to show you. And that's it. I just grabbed a handful of stuff, but these things, especially which one? This one, yeah. It was. See, you see my man right there. Okay. Um, so it was released before things, and then I can go much deeper, and show you labels that people know. People know the labels and stuff that things were on, and look, promotional use only. When it's on the white, it's promotional use. Look, things like that. And early Warner Brothers and at Tabit and stuff. These are records, especially this. I gotta hide the name of this one. Okay, but if you know the label, you know what breakbeat is on there. And like I said, I just grabbed a couple of them, but I have boxes and crates and just all kinds of things. And if you look, if you look on my baby picture, and I have my close and play, I probably have the majority of these records in my hand. I definitely had this with Funky Drummer. Okay, I definitely had this in my hand, King on the Orange label. So that's why when people say things and they talk about this was happening or whatever, but very seldom, like I almost never do I say, okay, well, this is the record we were playing, and this is what we were doing to this, and this is how it happened. One of the things that was said, and it's always being said, is how Herc created this merry-go-round. Okay, so a musician would know the difference. So break beats, you very seldom, I mean, it's rare to find a break beat that's over 4 measures. It's rare. It's rare. I got them, but it's rare. So this merry-go-round extending the beats, uh, stuff like I'm not gonna name records, but there's a lot of stuff that's only maybe 2 measures long. And so people can say, there's always the this whatever about what measures and bars are, what measures and bar, but I was taught that a measure is 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. That's it. Okay, so in the amount of time, boom, that, kaboom, that, the boom, boom, that. All right, that can come in before a measure. There are a lot of records that's just a half a measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, and that's it. The end of the record, at the end of the break. And so for her to do some of those earlier records that only had the break for those couple of seconds, then you're not gonna be able to catch that on the modern ability. I mean, on the older stuff. Now the new stuff, this new sampling stuff that's easy. But to have 2 turntables, just like the Mickey Mouse Club, Mickey Mouse Club. Now, you mean to tell me you think that Herc was going and doing that and going there and catching it and going back to the headphone, going back, cueing it, going back? You think that that's what Herc was doing? No. No, not at all. And I'll tell him to his face, everybody knows. This is something he knows. Now, I'm going to tell you in my book how it actually was done before this and everything. So the merry-go-round was with records like Apache. The Apache break is much longer than a measure. It's much longer. So you can take Apache break and put it with Get Up, Get Into It, Get Involved, James Brown, that break, or another James Brown break that's about a minute long. And that's what was considered the merry-go-round. All of these people that talk about the merry-go-round cannot even say what the merry-go-round is. They just hear that he extended the beats. They never heard it. They don't know nothing but what they heard. So I'm here to tell you what the merry-go-round was. And so What we did, because a lot of times they didn't have two of the same record. So the merry-go-round with her, was usually one record. When that break finishes, then the other record comes in with that break, and so on and so on. Or if Apache comes on, and then another, then you put the another time like dun 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 that that do boom boom. See, a musician will tell you how that goes, how that break goes. And so, yes, Dwann B, yes, those different grooves and stuff were before us, before we created it. But the catch is how we put it together. How we put it together. A lot of those people that were in those grooves, they didn't dress like us. They didn't. And that's point blank, period. They didn't do the karate moves that we did on the floor to the beat, to the actual beat back then, because they didn't have those type of beats, funky beats. You already admitted and said that James Brown is the one that came out with on the one. You see, and so now we're kids. We're kids, and that's the big catch of this whole thing, that people are not getting. They're not getting it. They're so busy of thinking of what happened after the creation, that they're not realizing that the creation part of it was the kids. The kids are what put this together. The kids are what made this to be what it is. The kids were the ones that had the notion to say, wow, we like this drum beat. Wow, we like being able to say a snap and won't get in trouble or curse or whatever and won't get in trouble. We like to do these dances where we could do gestures, and we can't do those gestures in our house. So that's where the creation of hip hop becomes. And that's it. It's like everyone is taking it from after it was created, which is fine with me. That doesn't bother me. But then when you come into my dome and say, okay, well, it wasn't created by here, it wasn't created right here, that's where I have the problem with. Because I was there, and I know before we did it, the togetherness of what it is, no one was doing that. Please bring me someone that said, and I say that on all of my things. Bring me somebody that in 1970 and 71 that was doing that. Just doing that. And so, that's where it all gets a lot of people, like I said, just like with the merry-go-round thing. So you mean to tell me I still can't do it from the day? Everything that I was doing as a kid, DJing and stuff, I do right now. I just did a show. I just did a show Saturday. I did a show yesterday. And I can still do all of the stuff that I did. I can still bring these records out. I can still do that. I can still, right now, this is like nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. I can still do it. So you go tell Herc and ask Herc, can he extend the break on Mickey Mouse Club? Can he? And so that's the difference, because that will be extending the break. If you make Mickey Mouse Club go like this, and I'll do it for you because I'm always gonna do it for you. on beat. Mickey Mouse and Cubby, which wasn't the real person that actually did that drum beat. But if you look at Cubby, when they were supposed to have produced this record, yes, he had the real drum set from the drummer, but the drum set had two bass drums. And that's what you guys don't get. I know this. Know this. I know that he had the original drummer, not Cubby, because Cubby was a Mouseketeer. So if you want to go deep, you can't go deeper than what I go to. Okay, Cubby was the drummer on the Mouseketeers. Okay, so that beat, right, which is called the Mickey Mouse March, from all the beat masters that don't know that, okay, because they put it on the break beats different, but that's it. And so the real drummer had two bass drums, number one, and they redid the cymbals. I mean the hi hat. So if you listen to it, it's chords like that. Oh God, I can dig so deep into that beat. But the point of it is that Herc did not extend that beat. Herc did not extend that. So all those people say, "Oh, he created the merry-go-round. Oh, he created the merry-go-round and everything for what? What is the merry-go-round? What did he consider a merry-go-round?" And that's a part of this hip hop conversation that's needed to be said. It's needed to be said. And a lot of people are not talking about that because they don't know. They really don't know and understand the music part of it. Okay? When they talk about John Brown, right? They're talking about inside of what was called a club, the Tunnel. Okay. And all of those who know where the Tunnel is, in the Bronx, near the what places that no brown person wants to go to, which is the courts, would know, if you were there, that was considered a club. Okay, that was a club. And Smokey, they were inside somewhere. And even Herc, with the so-called birthday party, was in somewhere. Now imagine being in this place and doing hip hop, because you know it was chaperoned. It's somebody's birthday party. So you know you had older grown-ups there chaperoning it. So if you're going to get on the mic and curse, or you're going to get on the floor and come back up and hold your private parts, they would have stopped that immediately. If you're going to play some X-rated cursing, some Red Fox or Miles Mabley on they're going to stop you. But 9 times out of 10, when we set up outside, there was no adults. There was no control. There was no control. Like, oh my God. I remember, oh my God, I can remember playing the music when in the carriage room, because wasn't gonna play it. We had all the parents had these records, had these Red Fox records, the Richard Pryor records, the Mom's Mabley records, the Wild Man Steve records, and all of that. People had that. Red Fox had a couple of Laugh records, and they were rated X. And that's another thing, that they were rated X because they were not made for children. Children were not supposed to hear these records. So inside, you would actually have adults. And you imagine playing or saying these things, or like I said, going to the floor, come back up and holding your private part and putting your hand in somebody's face and all of that. That just, it just didn't do. And not only did that happen, but that's one of the reasons why, when they say that this party happened in this place, this center, the real people that were around at those times, they know, like, hold up, these kids was already doing this. And this is the difference between, like what Dwann B was saying, that it came before that. It became way before that, because it wasn't put together like that. So I commend you, I ask you to go back to the footage where you saw them dancing and listen to how they were to the music that they were dancing to. When you listen to the actual rapping that the brothers did, and listen to the music that was being used for them to rap. So if you go back before that and everything, you can even go back further and listen to the music that was being used. They wasn't using this. They wasn't you, and not only, see, the catch also is that a lot of James Brown records, you can dance from the minute he goes, oh, and you can dance the whole record. You can dance, but then the extra gravy and the extra sauce on it is when he tells Clyde, and Clyde is just by himself doing it. And boy, when we hear that, woo, we gonna get down. And that's another thing, as far as people don't understand what burning is and breakdancing is. People just think that burning is a part of, well, it's a part of dancing. That's what burning is. But breakdancing is only breaking part of that break. That's it. Now you can come out of the break dance while the break is on and start to burn. You could do that. Or you could burn the whole time that breakdancing is happening, because you can't go down and do actually the break part, But that's the difference, that people don't relate. They don't understand that. They just think that, somebody said that burning came before breakdancing, and dancing came before breakdancing. Period. Dancing came before breakdancing. Music genres came before breakdancing. Now, this is something that's in my book, and I'm going to tell you. I'm going to actually tell you. You see, you hear my ringtone, but anyway. So, a lot of people are saying that someone coined the word hip hop. That it was either Cowboy or one of them, Bam. I don't know who it was, but they say that that's who created the word hip hop to to make it what it is, hip hop. All right, that's false. I'm here to tell you, DJ Faze is here to tell you that that's false. And all of the real record collectors will know that that's false as well. And they say that it came in, they say that it came in at that time, like 70 something, whatever. When in reality, it started being used in the record collectors' vocabulary, because you got to remember, record collectors, record collectors were usually jazz record collectors, and they would collect these jazz records. And so the one who coined the word hip hop was Lenny Roberts. God rest his soul. Lenny Roberts was a jazz collector, record collector. And there were a lot of places that we used to bump heads. And when I say bump heads, don't mean bump heads. Well, we used to meet and see each other. Downstairs, Harmony, B&H, J&R, Vinyl Top, all of these places that are no longer there anymore. We used to meet up. And later on, me and Islam did a lot of record hunting. So, it did at this point, like I said, Elroy from downstairs, Benji from downstairs, all record collectors, all real record collectors and beat masters, Break Beat Lenny. He's a beat master, and so we used to go all over, find records all over. That's why I have so many records now. I have two houses now that have no furniture, no refrigerator, no couches, no beds, no nothing. Just have crates of records. Two houses, full houses, from the basement to the attic, filled up with records. And every house that I have, there's records, just a great amount of records in there. But anyway, so we were actually, saying going to these places and getting records. So now remember, I'm a little kid. 1970, I'm a little kid. And I'm playing hooky from school, going to get records, and I'm doing this, or they're sending me records from Ohio, all kinds of things. And so I would see him in these record stores a lot, buying a bunch of records, these jazz records. So one day I asked him, I said, do you have any records that have just a drum beat? And he said, what kind of drum beat? And I said, just like a solo drum, just the drums. He says, yeah, I could think of a couple. And so he said, well, why do you want this? Now, this is in 1971, not 72, 73, 74. This is in 1971. And he says, which people didn't even know Lenny before 73, 74, 75. People didn't even know Lenny. And so I told him, I said, I'm a drummer and I want to learn how to do these beats. So he introduced me to a lot of instructional records that had to teach you how to play the drums. Now the catch was, though that person, I'm not even going to say his name, but that person was, you guys know I call them pink people. So he was a pink person and he did not have our grooves at all. But he taught me the basics of how the bass drum, the snare drum, the hi-hat, and the crash cymbal was. I learned my own about tuning the tom-toms. So every time I was doing it, I was getting more and more, like more and more. Like as a kid, man, I had so many break beats, and because that was it, and that's another reason why I say that people don't understand that the older people were like, "Booby, what are you doing? Why are you just playing that? You went and bought a record just to play that one little couple seconds of the record," and so I was getting a big collection of these records. And so Lenny asked me, he said, "Well, what do you call that? What do you call that? What are you doing?" And I didn't know what I called it, getting down or or like I said, like just to get down. I didn't know what it was called. So he said, "No, you have bebop, you have doo-bop, you have sock hop, you have all of these different things." And that's basically that he actually taught me, what the genres were for this certain kind of music. And so throwing the words around, back in 1971, that was a thing to say hip. He was hip. He was cool. It was groovy. It was a gas. It was, these were some of the words. And so he just said it. He said, "Well, I'm going to call it hip hop." That's what he said. He didn't mean for it to be going out this way. This was something that he was going to call it, not no one else. Just him and me, basically. And so a couple of weeks later, I had another partner that I used to dig with. And so I brought him. And so he says, "Well, I know what you're looking for." That's what Lenny said to me. He says, "I know what you're looking for, and I got something for you." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." So he said, "I'll make a deal with you." He said, "If you tell me the names of the ones that you found, I'll buy it for you and buy it for me." So now that to me is like, oh my God, yes. you know, and so and so, that's how that started. Now, when Downstairs Records, well, first it was Harmony because that was in Parkchester and that was the closest. So as soon as I knew something was coming out or remember, and like I said, I had the inside thing because I'm playing for these different people and different things. So once he told me that, and Parkchester, what was right there, God rest his soul, man, of Harmony, like the old man in Harmony. But he tells me, he says, okay, we're gonna do this. So now after hip hop started picking up, you got to remember this is 70, this is 71 and going into 72. So hip hop started not picking up, but it started not being just in the first section or the second section or the third section, because that's how it went in Bronxdale. It went in sections in Bronxdale. Then it went to Monroe, because Monroe was right next to Bronxdale. And then it went to Soundview, and then it went to Castle Hill. And Bronx River, believe it or not, came a little bit after those did. And so amongst then, now people are looking for these records. These people are looking for these records that have this break in it. So now Lenny is older. Like I said, he was much older than me. And he starts looking at a business aspect of it. He looks at the business. So he had already known that what I was doing at this point of it, now this is not early point, this is this point of it, that I was taking a piece of tape, see, and I peel off the name of the record. It didn't start off with Magic Marker. It started off taking a piece of tape and peeling off the name of the record. Now, see, this is where I know people, they hear so much. They hear so much. But the part of the creators know how that was happening. We knew what tape to use to peel off the record. And then, because with the Magic Marker, be honest with you, put hot water on it and you can still basically read what it was. But if you rip it off, they don't know what the record is. And so that's what we used to do. So when I, started going, because, right out of I want to say junior high school, I started, going different places and doing this stuff, this thing. And so I came back from being gone for a while to find out that Lenny took those records and made the ultimate break beats. I was so mad. I called him. I was in North Carolina, and I saw somebody sent it to me, and said that he got those breaks on there, and then what was the other one? Disco breaks, whatever it was, and so I was so upset with Lenny. I was so upset. So I called him on his phone, and the phone number that he had before was disconnected. So I couldn't wait to get to New York to go, because he used to live right next to the Corvettes, right in front of Corvettes. And so I couldn't wait to get to, so I get there and I'm banging on his door. And he goes, wait a minute. He says, wait a minute, hold on, calm down, whatever. Because I knew what all the records was in his closet. So you walk in the door, he had the closet. And he said, and this is why I loved him so much. He said, before you say anything, before you yell at me, he said, come look at this book. And in the book, it had some checks. And one of the checks had my full government name on it. And I was, at that time, oh my goodness, I was like, oh, this is what it does. Okay, this is new stuff. And so before, like a little bit before that, um, we were putting them in on the wall and downstairs records. We had been putting them on the wall in harmony records, the break beats and stuff. And that's where the break beats, basically was became, what this new thing hip hop was basically called. So, like I said, the term hip hop was basically created by Lenny Robertson. You can look him up, big prominent jazz collector that passed away. And so that's about it. Like I said, I don't want to give too much away. That's going to be in the book July 7th, 2026, but I just wanted to clear some things out. So one of the things that I hope I cleared up was when Dwayne B said that that hip hop is a combination of things that were way past. Yes, that's true, but it was never put together the way that we put it together. We as kids, not we as just a whole this project. No, I can basically really say it was maybe seven or eight of us. And before even Cruise or anything, we were like the Bad Super Seven and the Little Rascals and all kinds of stuff, before before things, because we would get into so much mischief. And so that's what it was. So, and also I wanted to clarify about the merry-go-round and Cool Herc. Like I said, give him Mickey Mouse Club, and let's see him merry-go-round that. Let's see that he can, let's see him do that, extend that beat. And that's basically just what I wanted to say to Dwann B. Because, like I said, I'm very, very impressed with his knowledge for music. To anybody that has knowledge of music like that, I'm very impressed by. And I'm not one to be a hater or jealous or any of that. I commend you, and I commend Dwan B on his music knowledge. I do, but when it comes to hip hop, I'm one of the creators, so I cannot just let the false information get there. I'm already getting blamed so much by my elders by saying, "Well, you're the one that did it. You're the one that you and your crew is the one that let it go on, let these lies go on, and all that." And I basically do have to take a little bit of say, and that's why when I saw Smokey a couple of summers ago, he even sat down and told me, he says, "Man, they don't even know who you are. They don't know what you did for this. I'm so glad to see you, and you were just a little kid, and so it's just, yeah, I was a little kid, so there's a lot of things that the older people were basically able to steal, not physically steal. They could steal it from a distance, but even as a little kid, you're not physically coming and taking something from me. Like Mario took the name from JJ. Mario physically took it. He was like, "Yo, don't say that no more." And people don't know that, and still to this day, these so-called pioneers and so-called enthusiasts and researchers and everything still say, "Well, why was his name Disco King Mario if he didn't do the disco and if he wasn't a disco DJ?" And we explained it, but when they say that, is because they never were there to see Mario. They never could hear what Mario was playing. They were not able to see us, the little kids behind the ropes, putting the records on, dancing in the ropes, getting on the mic. And I think I gotta sneeze. I think I gotta sneeze. Ah, choo 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 choo. So they weren't able to see that. They didn't experience that. So all they know is what someone told them. And that's just the bottom line. Okay. So I'm not gonna go over. If you guys want me to do a part two, then you just definitely put it in there. Riri has already put my notifications up, and also, people, I want to tell you that something is going on because a lot of you guys are not getting notifications, which I'm doing the notifications sometimes a day before, hours before, and you're not getting the notifications. And on my previous broadcast, they cut me when I was beginning to talk about black being called the color black. So something is definitely going on. I know one of the people that was putting my videos up before and with the challenge, they shadow banned him seriously, and so he had millions of people would want to see his stuff, and they only like let maybe 300 or 200 go by, and so that's really bad. So you guys, I guess you just have to look for them and look out and to see when I'm actually coming on. So Boris Tin Shot Dwann B. Okay, yes. Salute DJ Phase. What's going on? Okay. Princess is here. DJ Phase, peace, peace. Okay. At Brooke, we love you. We love you more. Love you more. Of course, Riri's there. Dr. Phase is so genuine and humble in person. Oh, I gotta put that out. Thank you. Oh, he says he met me. Okay, yes. Dr. Phase is so genuine and humble in person. I met you at the movie premiere. Peace, yes. Oh, I hope you saw the one that I did about the actual movie, but I'm going to do a part two to that as well. Okay, Princess says, "Hey, sis, Riri." Okay, Boris says, "Hey, hi, Boris." Venus, hey, V, what's going on? Hey. Venus says, "Hey, what's up? You missed the concert, V. It was rocking." Okay, let's see what Savior says. Dwan B mentioned you, but he hate giving New York. He knows his music history, but he has a disdain for New Yorkers. Save yourself. Nine said that. Well, listen. At 7 a.m., I had maybe about 100 people sending the video to me. And I didn't get a notification or whatever because I guess he has it on a different channel. And they sent it to me, brother. And I mean, they just was like, "Yo, Faith, you gotta." So, and I mean, it's 7 a.m. So that's why I was on it. Okay, look at, hey, DJ Biggs, salute. DJ Face, Mina, BTP, Riri, A. Brook, Boris, Shinshaw, Venus Phil, and family. Peace. Salute, brother. Salute, salute. How are you? How you been? Okay. Let's go down. Let's go down. I want to give everybody a chance. Okay, Boris says July 2nd or 22nd. It's July 7th. 7th. July 7th is the release of my book. July 7th, 2026. 7. Okay. JG, what's up? He says, peace, chat. What's going on with you? What's going on with you? Okay, let's go down. Let's go down. Let's go. Reggie Rock. Uh, why are you hiding the name for? You don't have to still do that. Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Like, okay, here, I'm going to show you one thing, right? And I know for a fact, okay, if they had this record, right, on this label, okay, look at this label. If they had knew what this record is, all right, you can't search it any other way. You can't do it any other way. But if you knew what this record is, look at the break. Oh God, that's another secret I gotta tell you. But if they had that record, Reg Rock, they would, oh my God, it would be sampled a billion times. You think Funky Drummer was sampled so many times? They would sample this record a billion times. Okay, so that's a part of my you ain't gonna see crates. Okay, okay. And just like Riri said, Reggie Rock, he's a true old school now, DJ, exactly. I'm taking this with me. I'm taking this with me. I'm. Oh my goodness! But thanks for bringing that up. I can't help it. Just that's we're like I said, I'm one of the creators. I'm one of them, and so that's what we that's what we used to do. And that's another thing that is in my book of how why people were not allowed behind the ropes. And a lot of people were not allowed near the turntables. Even some MCs couldn't come back to the turntables. And that's real hip hop. That's 100% real. Some MCs could not come back to where and other DJs, oh my God, if we didn't take the name off the record, they wasn't gonna see the record. You stay over there until I'm finished playing the record, put it in the cover, put it in the crate or whatever, and that's it. And that's 100% real. And all the so-called pioneers or whatever, if they don't know that fact, then I don't know what to tell you. Okay. At 100% at rhyming snaps, you got style, you got class, but I'm gonna stick my size 10 foot up your ass. Right. That would have been a part of the dozens. 1972 playground disc. Yes, my feelings got hurt. Yeah, yes, Paul Roberts. I totally, I would have been one of those ones that would have said something, and that's what it was. That's what it really was. It was about, it wasn't necessarily doing the dozens. It was just, either, and we used to do compliments. We used to do compliments over the mic. And so it wasn't just basically insults. It was compliments or I remember, oh my goodness, I remember when housing came and it was one day, one week that we got the intercoms. Well, our building was the first one to get the intercoms, and so when we were out on the outside on the microphone, we said we want to thank housing for our new intercoms. We got intercoms, and, and that was and everybody was like, yeah. So yeah, that was a big part of what we were doing and why it's called hip hop, of what we were doing. They made it different from what people from before us were doing. Reggie Rock says, I couldn't the Snapchat, super chat, see can we what I said, LOL. Oh, well, yes. I don't have that. I'm not monetized right now, Reggie Rock. Tell Riri to get it done. I'm only kidding. She's working on it. She's working on it. So yes, she's working on it. So I'll be able to get super chats as well. Okay. If you want to support my channel, if you want to support me, you can go to Cash App. Here, I'll put that back up there for a minute. You could do that. Okay. Paul Roberts says again, 100%. It was Black American musicians who started putting long instrumental breaks in the music in the 70s, like Machine Gun, Jungle Boogie, or Papa Was a Rolling Stone. Yeah, yeah. They would do that. That's something. But I would figure, and this is just my opinion, that James Brown was the first funky drum solo. Now there was a lot of different pop solos, jazz solos, rock solos. There was a lot of solos, drum solos, but James Brown, from my knowledge, was the first funky drummer. Was the funky drummer, and that's just it. Okay, let me see. Okay, uh, music. Yeah, yeah. I can definitely agree with that. Music went from singles to albums in the 70s. Plus, they got the technology to cut the records thinner and the vinyl to make album slides and singles longer. Truthfully, info as always, DJ Phase. Yes, yes. So yeah, so that was it. And so I was collecting these 45s. I guess when I could hold them. That's what I. Oh man, I just came across this one, and oh no, I'm not gonna show that one either. But anyway, yeah, that's basically it. Okay. Miss Susan VB says, I remember Cubby. Yes, see? And who was Cubby, Miss Susan? He was the drummer. And that's supposed to be, he was a musketeer. So, that's basically what it is. Gary's Garage, what's good? What up? How are you? All right, let's show him there. Okay. And let me see. Okay, Mighty Hebrew, shalom, shalom, my brother, shalom. He's one of the ones that text me, sent me something at 7 a.m. But he's overseas, so I guess he didn't realize what time it was. But he shalom, brother, shalom. He sent me the clip of it, and everybody's saying El Amar Bay. He sent it to me early. That's my brother. That's my little brother right there. And he can't. Oh, okay. Paul Roberts. Okay, let me see this one. Mr. Taylor, peace, Mr. Taylor. My mother had the Blow-Fi records. I used to sneak and look at the covers because of the Batman and Joker spoofing. Now, see, Mr. Taylor. Now, this is something that I want people to understand. That when you used to sneak and look at those records, you said the key word. You had to sneak. Now, how old were you when you had to sneak? You see what I'm saying? So that's the same thing that we were doing, especially with hip hop. We were doing something, sneaking away, that the older people, our parents and our older people, wouldn't know what we were doing. I already gave you the story of how the word snap came. you know. So okay, all right. Wow, they're still coming. They're still coming. They're still coming. They're still coming. Still coming. Dwann B, Mr. Smoke, Dwann B. Great show. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Great info. Yes, part two. Okay. So yes. So I'm gonna put this up here. Gary Garage said yes to a part two. So I'm gonna do that. And like I always say, hit my Cash App, hit that PayPal. I hope this information enlightens people and let them know about all of these lies that have been told about the creation of hip hop. You know, why should any other, and I can just say it, why should any other people get credit for something that they didn't create? You know, that's just like, you know, I think of all of us that has been stolen from. Like it's like I think of Johns Hopkins and you know, all the different creations that we made and someone else took credit for. So that's why I give this information, and that's why I bring the records. You thought I was gonna do it, right? You thought I was gonna do it. That's why I bring the records and I show, you know, and I show things because you know it's the truth. It's something that's the truth. So yes, I will do a part two, but I hope that I can look into the Cash App and I can look into PayPal, and people say, yes, here, phase, you know, do a part two. We need some more information to do a part two, and I'll do it. You know, I'll definitely do it. You know, and if anyone talks to Dwann B before I talk to him, let them know that I didn't get on here to say something wrong or you know, I didn't. I just wanted to uh, give him a little bit of knowledge of what those things meant that he said and why it's going hip hop. Okay. All right, guys. You guys always is great. It's great when I love to see when you guys come in to the chat. I love it at all times. And oh, you know what? Let me before I go, let me put that up there. Hold on. Let me put this up there so we can go out with that. Okay. And if you guys are not getting the notifications, let's see what we can do so that you can actually get the notifications. Okay. So, as always, peace and love and soul and hip hop. Love you guys. Peace.